Well, we talked about the Xbox and Nintendo price hikes, and now it is time for Sony to ignore the topic and keep us wondering. Joke's on them though, now that the PlayStation is an Xbox, we're going to be getting Xbox again for $80, so the future is here, Sony. It's state of play time. After years of disappointing conferences filled either with a bunch of nothing or a bunch of exciting something that eventually turns out to never come out and be nothing, or does come out and you wish it was nothing. Let's get excited anyway. Since the show is a sleep-inducing hour, I promise to spend no more than 10 minutes of your time. Promises are made to be broken. So it starts out week AF with Lumines Arise, and I'm saying weak as someone who actually likes this kind of game. Not exactly something to start with though, especially when your curtain opener accompanies some really weird music. I saw a few others react to this, and none of them even knew what it was supposed to be. Modern consoles are very lacking in puzzle games. This is definitely a huge point of shame. There really should be a few dozen under $1 million budget games filling out the Game Pass and PS Plus libraries with some puzzlers, but there's almost nothing as part of the service or even a purchase. On the PS3, we had the likes of Puzzle Quest, Zuma, Peggle, Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo, Catherine, Might and Magic Clash of Heroes, and I really need to stop before this just becomes a back in my day when puzzle games were great rant. Then we get a fake out with an AI company advertisement, which after the Lumines start is setting up a bad mood for the show. However, turns out to be Pragmata, announced back in 2020, looked like it was going to become nothing, now it looks like Dead Space, Bioshock, and while that is probably what you've heard everyone else call it, that's kind of the best descriptor. You get a little sister robot girl, a heavily armed mining rig, and scary androids to deal with. Well, promised long ago, we now have a 2026 release date, and this is a game right up many people's alley, which is like an oasis in the desert, taking advantage of an unfortunately extreme long gap with nothing between the last few good games. Bioshock 2 and Dead Space 2 both dropped on the retro game system, the PS3. Back in my day, this has serious potential. Romeo is a Dead Man comes next, looks like an action-heavy game with a few interesting moments like freezing and shattering enemies, sundering body parts, and weapon variety. Looks like Killer is Dead banged the corpse of Dead Rising back to life. Silent Hill F looks pretty creepy, great set design, aesthetic. This looks like a crossover between Silent Hill and Siren or Fatal Frame. Only melee weapons, going back to the classic, it looks like it's largely going to be a pipe, but there is a shot with a glaive shown so far, and some unsettling looking monsters with erratic movement and attacks. Here's hoping this plays as good as it looks. Bloodstained 2, the Scarlet Engagement. Now this is where the showcase really starts for me. Bloodstained may have flown under people's radars, but it should not have. Made by the creator of Castlevania after he left Konami, this is the best Metroidvania game ever made, second to perhaps only Symphony of the Night. The cinematics look great, and it seems to have a dual protagonist gameplay function with combos which could be really interesting. This is something I've been waiting for since the first one came out. Highly recommend going back to play that one if you have not. Digimon Storytime Stranger. This looks pretty good, though every time I try and give one of these games a try, there ends up being some sort of weird friction or two that is just too much and it kills my enjoyment. Still, there's no question there's a lot of people who love this franchise, and it has been going about as long as Pokemon, and while Pokemon largely stays the same, Digimon loves to change things up. Final Fantasy Tactics, the Ivalice Chronicles. The Chewbacca plushies are definitely very cute, another collector box without the game. The graphics and UI upgrades, they look pretty nice. It is now voiced, but it is hard to say if the story changes and the localization won't cause some trouble. It does contain the original game though, so that is nice. I really like when they include the original when they do a remaster. Definitely it helps you compare the new to the old. And here's hoping it has a CRT function, because Final Fantasy Tactics is one of the greatest games ever made. Still, the best turn-based tactics game in an underrepresented genre. This looks like a pretty advanced remaster, not a full remake, but far more than just a graphics update. If you've never played this one, this would be in the same retro RPG recommendations list that includes the likes of Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy VI. At this point, we get a quick-fire list of some pretty small games. Baby Steps, which looks like a getting over it type of frustration game, where the controls are the entire difficulty. This is basically a streamer rage game, so surely you'll see some of your favorite VTubers and streamers playing this game, and slamming their keyboards in the near future. I cannot imagine anyone wanting to play something like this though, if you don't have an audience there to be mocking you. Hirogami is a cute adventure game with a mix of side-scrolling and 3D platforming. Looks like a PlayStation 1 era game. Everyone's Golf Hot Shots is a golf game. Ninja Gaiden Ragebound should provide a good challenge. The game looks fluid and has beautiful colors. Looks like a fun game overall. Cairn is a climbing survival game. Not a game for me, but there's a demo out if you want to give it a try. Mortal Kombat Kollection is another retro collection, and they advertise a PS5 Fight Stick controller at the same time. And next we have some Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater showing off some gameplay and a bit of an Ape Escape collab crossover thing. Naturally, we have known this game for a while, but this gives people who love the series just a little more to be happy about as they wait for it to come out. And at this point, just when we're starting to fall asleep, finally, a game changer. Nioh 3. This is the game I watch, or in this case, I completely missed because I had no clue that State of Play was even happening. These promotional hours of mostly slop games and the chance of getting one of these. Souls are the best of the best genres, and Nioh 1 and 2 were both masterpieces. This is the sort of thing that only something like an Elden Ring 2 being announced could overshadow. And even though it showed a bit of gameplay, it looks good. Oh look, they're giving you samurai and the ninja playstyles. Hey Ubisoft, are you watching? Maybe take some hints, play this game, go back in time before you start making AC Shadows, and cancel it because you're going to find players are far more receptive to Nioh 3 due to it being a franchise that respects their fans. And that's how the State of Play ends, the perfect game to bring this to a close, and honestly, a pretty decent showing with a handful of games to look forward to. Or at least, that's how I would have ended it. Unfortunately, that's just the halfway point, and the second half is not exactly great. So next we have Thief VR Legacy of Shadow. Hey, this game will probably be one of the better VR games. Thief seems perfect for VR, but VR is pretty much a dead end at the moment. We next have a multiplayer narrative, choose your own adventure, Tides of Tomorrow. Could not have been less interested in a game. Some more levels for Astrobot. Game of the year, great game, easy to recommend if you haven't given it a try yet. Sea of Remnants, exploration, mobile game style, or is it a Monkey Island game? Not sure. The blocky character design is a little iffy, hard to say exactly what is going to be going on with this game, because it mostly just showed off a bunch of gimmicky stuff. Sword of the Sea looks like one of those visual style exploration games, if you like Pathless and Abzu. FBC Firebreak is from the Control developers, looks like a 3-player co-op horde extraction shooter. This might be fun if you're looking for a bit more from Control, but it's hard to say if it does anything to build on the storytelling. Then we get some PS Plus additions to the classic collection: Deus Ex, Twisted Metal 3 and 4, Resident Evil 2 and 3, Myst, and Riven. Then comes what they seem to think was gonna be the game changer. 5 minutes to advertise it, 007 First Light, which looks like the Jedi Survivor protagonist is the new Bond. The entire thing gave a Temu James Bond at home feel, showing off some mimicry of big Bond scenes, and managing to make it look far less interesting. It does have some nice action, but some of it was looking kinda stiff. Largely looks like a ghetto hitman meets cover-based shooter. The one-liners and charisma seems pretty lackluster, and not gonna lie, if this is meant to be Bond before he becomes everything that everyone loves him for, they nailed it. But hey, Bond to me is what Doctor Who or Star Trek is to most sci-fi nerds. After Brosnan, there's been a steady, massive downfall to one of the greatest realistic fiction heroes of all time. A return to form would be great, but my expectations have been brought very, very low with their anti-masculinity direction in the past few movies. At this point, Ghost of Yotei gets a complete nothing teaser. This has to be the most unhyping sequel to something amazing that's ever happened. And next we have Marvel Token Fighting Souls. Maybe like Rivals, it will be promising. Character designs actually ended up looking mostly pretty good. Like Marvel Rivals, it seemed to over-exaggerate the style much like the comics. Rather than making it ugly and so-called realistic like Avengers, and following the MCU pattern of being completely ashamed of the comics. Arc System Works, they make some pretty good games, and this looks like Marvel vs. Capcom in a very good way. This is a very Japanese take on things, but hey, China managed to just make the best looking Captain America we've had in years. So, perhaps Japan can help save American comics, while American localizers are helping to destroy manga and anime. It was given 10 minutes to close out the show, and hey, it looks nice, but just like most of the show, it was at best a mid-tier hype moment. The state of play in general seems to have mid-reception for most, and for me, due to the likes of Final Fantasy Tactics, Nioh 3 Bloodstained 2, this showed off some absolute must-play games. 2 of my most anticipated titles is not something I can be completely displeased with, and the potential of Pragmata and Silent Hill for horror gamers is pretty solid. However, I can definitely understand why some people are not happy. Maybe this is a 7 or an 8 just for the games that were shown, but the conference itself, for the length and what they showed of some of these games, I'd say at best is a 6 out of a 10. It's a low bar, but this is an above average for these console showcases. But let me know how you feel. Any games you are eager for that I glossed over? Anything I badmouthed that got you excited? What was I wrong about? The correct answer is nothing. Like, subscribe, and comment below, and as for me breaking my promise to be under 10 minutes, I apologize for absolutely nothing. And then at the very end, out of nowhere, Bloodborne Remastered at long last did not get shown again.